Jessica, welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
I think you know the drill, but just for the record, we're going to start with your opening statement, and then we'll go through 2 rounds of questions, 2 from each of one of us, and then we'll make sure we give you time for a closing statement. Your interview's scheduled for 45 minutes,
Okay.
but we'll make sure if it runs over that we give you time for the closing statement.
Okay.
And with that, take it away.
My name is Jessica Manuell. I'm happy to be here again. I believe last year I was a little short in introducing myself, and so I'm going to make an attempt to do a better job of that today. Since the late 60s, my family has been fishing, boating, recreating, working, and part-time living in Yuma. Early 80s, I came along, and every spring, summer, and fall, my backyard every other weekend was the Colorado River. Call me a river rat, if you will, but I loved growing up there. Work took my family to Oregon, but we still came back to recreate, and when I decided to make the move back and be a permanent resident myself as an adult, I worked in the agricultural realm in Yuma, growing our country's winter vegetables and summer wheat, cotton, and Sudan grass. I'm married into a family that's been in Flagstaff for 40 years, self-employed, have their own concrete company that's been there for over 30 years. My husband and I have since opened 2 more businesses that service local communities, and we are currently raising our family there. Love it, couldn't think of a better place to be. I know you guys have seen my resume, but to expand a little bit on my background, it related to what I think is important here. Ag business management, animal science, growing up very rural in a ranching community and understanding relationships that happen across fence lines. My master's program was self-funded because I wasn't interested in what a chemical company wanted statistics to say. I wanted to fix a real problem on the ground, and self-funded a master's program that dealt with an invasive weed that plagued pastures and rangeland across the western United States. And I enjoy very much 13 years later when I still get a call that says, hey, we cited your work in an extension publication. That being said, some of that was funded livestock judging, so it's very hard to go hunting without critically evaluating the livestock that I do see out there. A blessing that I learned how to talk to people, but also a curse as I'm super analytical when I'm out there. I write and own for a women's hunting blog and have written for several women's hunting blogs over the last 12 years and currently contribute to Williams Grand Canyon newspaper hunting and fishing publication that comes out twice a year. It is very important to me that a lot of research is done prior to pen ever going to paper or fingers ever hitting a keyboard on that, and I'm very glad that they still allow me to contribute to that. Voluntarily, I am the state representative for Proas Women's Hunting Camouflage and Outdoor Gear. That's a volunteer position where I maintain socials, interact with the public, attend events, answer questions about their clothing and gear line specifically for women. It's been a pleasure working with them. I believe in their product. I belong to a handful of conservation organizations, both in the state and nationally. I have been a board member as a chair and treasurer for those over the past several years, but those terms are up, and I'm very much looking forward in participating in those organizations from a different perspective, in a different realm. Instead of running those fundraisers, I will show up, I may help, but I'll at least get to buy raffle tickets this time and enjoy what I contribute in a different fashion. I also teach hunter education and have since 2018. COVID and the government lockdowns made the state lose about half of the instructors that they had at the time. As you all well know, it is a requirement for youth under the age of 14 to have that certification in order to hunt. So we were left with our hands tied and an overabundance of students that needed that. So regardless of how I felt about lockdowns, I worked with the department on getting a program up and running so that our youth could go hunting. Consequently, was awarded New Hunter of the Year instructor by the department in 21, and the commission's buck Appleby Hunter Educator of the Year in 2022. And tomorrow down here, I will be certified to teach bow hunter education to the state, a service that has been missing since 2020, and I'm very much looking forward to bringing that opportunity back. to anyone who wants to take that class. I have a vested interest in being on the commission, raising a family with a daughter who at just shy of 3.5, I can confidently say has been hunting on more hunting and fishing trips in more states than a lot of people in this room, and she continually asks when the next time she gets to go. And she's the first one that touches any animal or fish that gets brought in the boat or on the ground, and I love that lifestyle for us. The North American model is important to me. A, our wildlife is not monetized. A, the opportunity is available for all. I want that opportunity for her, her peers, and future generations. The best part of that is that science is used to make those decisions moving forward. And I feel that as someone that has a science background, someone who can look at things objectively, that I fit the bill in being a member of the commission and representing the state, the department, and our wildlife. And with that, I am extremely appreciative of being able to stand in front of you again today.
Thank you. We'll get started, and I think Nate's in the hot seat on the left. He's going.
Well, thank you, Jessica. That was a great opening statement, and I appreciate your application again this year. Being up in the mountains, I'm sure you've noticed that snow and precipitation has been either lacking or sporadic. And so, what should the Arizona Game and Fish Department be doing to protect and enhance wildlife habitats so we can adapt to this evolving landscape? And I'll just elaborate quickly. Outside of water hauling, which I think is an incredible, great program, but I think more maybe needs to be done to just adapting to this drier landscape.
So we can't make the sky open up. We can't make forage grow. Living there, it's been really interesting the last couple of years. Multi-agency cooperation with some of the forest restoration projects that are happening, reducing wildfire incidences, or at least the severity of, with utilizing resources and reducing fuel loads, is one way I think that we can combat that. Not necessarily commission-based, but at least a seat at the table and understanding land use. Land use, the word I'm looking for, I'm lost, sorry. How the land is used moving forward, I think, is important, even though that decision might not come from us, but at least being able to have a conversation and what that looks like, habitat fragmentation, wildlife corridors, doing the best that we can, understanding that we are in a drought, which I think is becoming more the norm than actually a drought, and looking at either tag numbers, hunting pressure, seasons and things like that moving forward that might give wildlife a chance when years are really tough, which they do. I mean, we look at the commission revisits those anyways, but maintaining that moving forward.
Thank you.
Ms. Manuell, thank you for coming today. Thank you for your interest in the Arizona Game and Fish Commission. Can you please discuss a little bit about the Mexican gray wolf reintroduction and its impact on Arizona wildlife and livestock? And what would you change about the management of the Mexican gray wolf?
Sure, thank you for that very eclectic question. Everyone has an opinion, right? I want to ask, what is your opinion on it, and where do you get your information from? For one, because I think all of us standing here on this side get it from somewhere different, right? Depending on the groups that we follow. And I will say that growing up in Oregon, it's very interesting sitting there being told that wolves weren't in Oregon when you go to the ranch on the weekend, and there they are. The Mexican gray wolf, it's an experiment, right? It's an experiment release area where they currently are. It's been a very successful experiment, if you will, if you look at the rate at which they're repopulating naturally on their own, but also with hand-reared pups and that. I feel like sometimes hands get tied when an animal is listed under the ESA, just because you're limited on how you can manage that. What I will say is that in some areas, ranchers are hit harder with that problem than others. It's not everywhere. It's not the same across the board. Having experience with them in multiple states, what works in one state for hazing and reduction does not work in another state, in other areas. The department does have the ability to handle wolves that are problems for ranchers. Personally, I'd like to see them not on the ESA so that those mitigation and management opportunities would be broader than what they really are.
Jessica, you talked a little bit about conservation with Mr. Reese's question, but tell me about, if you would, other important issues that you think you might face if you were on the commission in the next 5 years.
We kind of addressed drought a little bit. That's going to be a huge thing moving forward, I believe. Again, a different one would be funding. It's always funding, right? Everyone's always looking for ways to increase. Nothing's getting cheaper. Management isn't getting cheaper. Overhead isn't necessarily getting cheaper. The only reason it might look less than it did 2 years ago on the budget is maybe the amount of employees that are working for the department currently, but operating costs certainly are not going down. So I think getting creative in how those funds are brought in, and not everyone agrees with removing auction tags from those resources. And I don't think everyone is going to agree with that moving forward anyways. I don't think anybody in this room, you're going to get everyone on the same page on an issue like that. But I do think they can get creative. So funding is one, drought is another. And I think with 1 million people moving here in the last 10 years, those getting the right information to the public, both the hunting public and the non-hunting public, is extremely important. So that way we can maintain our opportunities that we do have, and that other people believe in supporting the department, since so much of the funding does come from people who do not hunt as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
If you were to be appointed to the commission, how would you ensure that your decisions, are based on credible science and data, rather than anecdotes or external pressures?
There's been a few heated topics that have come up against the commission recently, and I'm the kind of person that is not well known, and so I'll sign up for webinars that other groups will put out and listen and see what they have to say. I like to have all that information at hand, and that sometimes it's really hard to put personal feelings aside, but I think it's necessary. My understanding is that everyone on the commission is given information well ahead of the decisions that they get to make, and are given opportunities to discuss with whoever made those proposals in the first place why that proposal is being brought in front of them, what were the methods, why did they come to the decision that they made. I have time on my hands, and some people think I don't because I have a family, but I do have time on my hands. I spent a lot of time reading, like I read all 6 pages of the budget before coming here today, just to make sure that I am understanding what's going on. So I think that being on the commission, I would be able to take all the information that is provided, all the phone numbers that I'm given, and make the phone calls in between those meetings, that I can make the best decision possible with the information that is given to me at that specific time, to make the best decision for moving forward.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi,
Welcome back.
thank you.
Glad you're here. You mentioned about working on environmental science and trying to manage invasive weed, right? How does that background, your background that you have in environmental science, how can you align that with the Commission's mission to conserve and restore wildlife habitat?
I think that background allows me to understand what's going on with our wildlife, with our environment. Considering I spend quite a bit of time outdoors, I'd say the majority of every day, most every month, understanding how a plant grows, understanding what it takes for a plant to grow, understanding that cows, horses, other ungulates, what happens to a plant after they munch on it and either move on or loiter, right? Understanding that our climate changes and water or not affects all of that. Understanding that pressure from recreationalists, industry, energy affects movements, and that I think understanding the system as a whole would help me be able to better understand the science that's presented to make those decisions.
Jessica, what is your view of federally designated national monuments, wildlife refuges, conservation areas, those types of federal designations?
So land use is important, right? Land designations are important. Preserving. I just used a word I said I would never use. Conserving those wild spaces for future generations is important, right? If we have to have those spaces, we have to have those designations. Those are areas that wildlife are going to seek refuge. We can't rely on stakeholders or private landowners. Every time we lose a rancher, that land generally gets developed and doesn't get brought back. So monuments, as long as we have a seat at the table and can maintain our recreational opportunities on there, I'm all for. Refuges, I think, are important. I'm actually going to be hunting near one later this month. You know, it's a wildlife corridor, it's a migration corridor, it's a water source, it's habitat. So I wholeheartedly agree in those land use designations where they make sense.
So, Ms. Manuel, if you were to be appointed to the Arizona Game and Fish Commission, and you had very limited constraints upon you in a hypothetical situation, what would be one thing that you would do immediately as a commissioner?
Oh. Cry. That's a heavy question. An answer that I have that, again, my answer might be different should I be provided with information that would change it or give me a different perspective. Can I give you two things? Okay. I really think we should pay for our tax up front so that we don't get any more of these whole your credit card declined this charge. Just let me write a check and I get it or I don't. Anyways, but that's another thing that I like from hunting other states. I really enjoy mandatory harvest reporting. I realize that we have great wildlife managers and biologists, and we do rely on people submitting those, but it's only mandatory for predators. Why isn't it mandatory for everything else? I can't apply in Alaska this year if I didn't turn in whether or not I shot a moose last year, and where I hunted. I think with so many people in the state and with so many vacancies within the department, that having us as a recreationalist help that, that's just something that I firmly believe in.
I'm gonna pass you've answered several questions I had to ask you, so your answers have been thorough, so I'm going to
Thanks.
pass to the right.
I'll take it.
You want to ask me about my favorite species?
Jessica, how would you work in the commission to build public trust amongst diverse groups, right? So not just hunters and anglers, right? But bird watchers, campers, OHV users, right? To get everybody on the same page, working for the same thing.
Well, I think you can get the majority of people on the same page, but we're never going to please all of them. You see that as it is now. I mean, currently with OHV legislation that's happening, there's people that don't want to be told where to go, don't want to be told how to recreate, don't want to be told how much they have to pay. Nobody wants a limit on how many trout they can catch. There's people that think that everyone should just be able to go hunt everything every year. It's information sharing. It's continuing the stewardship we have in programs where educators from around the state are invited to workshops and learn how to teach their classes what's going on. The department utilizes social media really good right now, but I think that can be expanded on, especially in other platforms where younger groups of people are focusing their time. But basically information vomiting is the easiest way that I can say that. Just sharing as much as you can, as much as legally applicable or allowable to people as a whole. There's misconceptions very politically about the type of people that hunt and fish and recreate, and they are not as big of a part of a single political party as everyone would like to think. And so I think maybe a little bit of that perception and mind change and how we talk to our audience would be beneficial as well.
I'm going to forego my planned question, and now I have a question on a comment you made just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
It sparked me. You said that you were tired of credit cards being declined and you wanted to write a check up front. Could you expand on that a little bit? Tell me how that would work.
Well, it used to be that way, right? Every year when I apply for New Mexico, I send
Are you saying prepay?
Prepay.
And you don't get your money back?
you get your money back if you don't get drawn.
Okay. You answered my question. Thank you. Good.
All right, if you give us your closing statement.
I didn't prepare one of those. Just again, I just would honestly would really love to reiterate the fact that this is something that I'm passionate about, and some people in this room, and some people in front of me, are well aware of my passion and dedication and conviction in being a member of the commission, especially being hopeful that the opportunities that I have had over the last almost 44 years that I get to pass to my daughter. And it's important to me to maintain those. And so again, just thank you for letting me be here today.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much